Good morning, early risers. I am not an early riser. However, today I promised you guys something special last night, so I'm going to do a follow-up video, mostly because, well, I like steak and eggs. And I think everybody out there likes steak and eggs. So we're going to do a steak and eggs video, but we're going to do a little bit of a twist on it. We're not making actual steak and eggs. What we're going to do is we're going to trim up some of that ribeye that you saw last night. And if you're just joining us and you don't know what I'm talking about, go through my posts and check out my video on bulgogi. You saw that I had cut off the hard fats off the sides and stripped it out nice. So we've got some bacon here. Bacon. At least it will be. Bacon traditionally is a salt-cured and smoked product. I don't want to spend 48 hours making this stuff, so we're going to cheat today, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. First, I had mentioned about Philly cheesesteaks. So Philly cheesesteaks will be a later video. However, I was talking about aging our steaks a little bit because they tenderize. So as you can see here, hopefully, this silly camera. So our steaks, as you can see, they're turning a little bit gray on top. This is the oxidization happening, and that will break down the nature of the meat and make it more tender. All right, Tina, I think you're right. I think I need a tripod. All right, so what we're going to do, we don't have 48 hours. I just don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack my steaks back up. I've already trimmed them down a little bit. Trimmed the hard fats. Now remember, you don't want to trim all of the hard fats. That's going into our Philly cheesesteak. That's going to melt down and that's going to make some awesome flavor later. As of right this instant, we're going to throw our steaks just to the side. And then we're going to make ourselves a salt cure. Some of you guys who do barbecuing and grilling and smoking and things like that will know this as a rub. Like I said, we're going to cheat today. First thing you want to do is you want to have some salt, liberally. Typically, you'll use about a pound of salt per pound of meat for a good salt-cured product. You want to make sure you absolutely coat that product and then let it sit for anywhere between 10 to 12 hours with the salt on it. Again, we're not doing that today. Just on. So, we have our salt, a good amount of it, and we're going to cheat. Liquid smoke. Love this stuff. It's great. It's not terribly expensive. Just remember, a little bit goes a long way. So we're just going to add just a couple of drops. You don't want a lot of this stuff. Again, a little bit goes a long way. We'll mix it into our salt, and you'll get this smoked kind of sea salt kind of smell coming out of it, and it should look like gritty sand. What we're going to do is we're going to take our meats, all of these little strips here that I've cut off the sides. As you can see, there are those hard fats that I was talking about on the sides of the ribeye. Try not to waste much of anything. Everything you pay for in the grocery store can be used, at least mostly. I mean, if you're buying cheap, crappy meat that's full of hard fats, like big giant chunks of it, I mean, you're getting what you pay for. But for the most part, anything that's decent that you do pay for, you can use. There's no reason not to, there's a good pound of meat here. There's no reason to throw this away. Anyways, so this is our simple smoked salt. You don't need to do anything else to this at all. However, I like flavor. So we're going to add a couple of sprigs of paprika. That will bring out the flavors of everything else that we have. We're going to use just a touch of cinnamon. Now, when I say a touch, I mean quite literally a pinch. You do not want... This is our cinnamon right here. We do not want to be using a ton of cinnamon. It will overpower everything else. It'll make it taste just like cinnamon, and cinnamon bacon's weird. What we're using it for is we're using it for a little bit of spice, a little bit of depth, and good morning, how are you? Welcome aboard. We're going to be adding some nutmeg to our salt cure. Nutmeg has a deep, nutty flavor to it. It's wonderful when it fries up and in oil. It will bring out the aromatics that you want. It'll add a nice little counterbalance to the saltiness and a little bit of a counterbalance to that smoke flavor that we threw in there. Now, some people will argue with me about coriander. Coriander has a deep, earthy, kind of a little bit citrusy flavor to it. Don't want to add a whole lot of this. Maybe just a dash or a couple of pinches. And the reason that you want to do that is coriander will add that cured, kind of aged flavor to the meat. So when you get done, you're going to have something that resembles light brown sugar. Now, why did I not use brown sugar, you ask? Brown sugar, when we fry it, will caramelize instantly. This will make for a very burnt tasting bacon. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that what we're getting is a good product without all of the foofra. If I had a smoker and I had 48 hours, sure, mix the salt in with the sugar, rub the whole thing down, throw it in the smoker, let it sit, and voila, beautiful. Then you have your brown sugar smoked bacon. Again, I don't have time for that. Now, of course, yes, that's how they get maple, that's how they get honey, that's how they do all of those things. Now, you'll have to forgive me. I am not a morning person. This morning is brought to you by Rockstar. Not actually an affiliate. I just drink the stuff. I don't do mornings. They're terrible for you. Faster the way to death, I promise. Anyways, take our bacon that we've cut, all these nice little strips off the edges of our ribeye. And what we want to do is we want to just, one of these days I'm going to figure out how to, there we go. All right, so what we want to do is just want to layer that into the salt just a little bit. Make sure that's nice and rubbed. You don't need to coat the whole thing. Just, put that in there like that. Now, for those of you following along, and if you did manage to pick up some ribeye, bully for you. If you didn't, any steak will do. Anything that has a good amount of fat to it, hard fats. So you're talking about your ribeyes, talking about New York strip, things like that. Now, I'm going to put that down so I have my hands free. I finished salting my bacon. Now what we're going to do is, remember I had said last night, for those of you joining us, I made a bulgogi video last night. Please go through my posts. And so what we're going to do is, once we have all this stuff nicely coated, it doesn't have to be completely coated. We're not throwing it in a smoker, so again, a little bit of that salt goes a long way. We just want to make sure that it's coated enough to where you can feel a grittiness to the meat. This leftover salt, very important. So, remember I said I was going to put these away, these ribeyes? Well, I did. And what I'm going to do is jam those in there and get a nice good layer to it. The reason we want this layer is this will help it age and cure in the fridge over time. What we're going to make that do is we're going to let that become the basis of our nice, very tender cheese steaks. We're going to just put those back in the baggie after we get them all coated with the salt. So we're going to have a nice, delicious depth of flavor, smoky, sea salt kind of flavor when we go to make our cheese sticks. And again, that'll help that oxidization and the curing process. making the meat more tender. I'll clear off my boards a little bit. Bacon. Now again, with all things, when we're making our ribeyes and everything else, we want to make sure that we put them in a plastic baggie to be safe. We want to make sure that we knock almost all the air out of it. And then we'll put it back in the fridge. Perfect.
Morning.
And for those of you joining us this morning, eggs, steak bacon. Yes, steak bacon. Do not be fooled by imitations. At all, ever.
Steak it.
Organized and it's just gone.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, so for those of you who cook with me on a regular basis, you know what this is. This is actual bacon grease. Now, no, we're not going to use it to cheat to make our bacon taste more like bacon. I'm just going to take a little bit and rub the bottom of the pan. What this will do is create an oil barrier between our meat and the pan. And I like bacon fat because it's dense, super dense. And like I said, we're not frying our bacon in we're not frying our beef bacon in this. We don't want it to taste like pork bacon. We don't want to use regular bacon grease on something that we've created. Otherwise, just go to the store, buy the expensive stuff, throw it in the pan, and be done. Now, dense oils have a higher smoking point. Because we're cooking the hard, fatty ends of the beef, we want to make sure that that pan is lightning hot. For those of you on the East Coast, that'd be ripping hot. For those of you on the West Coast, that'd be flaming hot. And for those of you who are weirdos from California, it's just damn hot. Still not hot. As you see, folks, you can see the little bit of a shine on that pan. That's where our grease is. Again, not a lot of grease. Don't completely bury this stuff. We're not out to, we're not at McDonald's. Just don't do it. But we're waiting for that smoke to rise. We want to make sure that it is that hot. So we've got this on high. And we're just going to wait. And it does take a minute. You should hear a little bit of a sizzle coming off of the pan. That's completely normal. You should start to smell, after a while, you should start to smell the bacon aromatics and everything. This will typically start to wake up the rest of your household. Don't worry. There's nothing cooked yet. There's nothing that they can steal. There's nothing that they can eat. They can just sit down and enjoy themselves. Drink some coffee. Or some Rockstar. Again, this morning brought to you by Rockstar, not officially affiliated, I just drink the stuff. Although, admittedly, I have to tell you a story. The Rockstar people were super cool. They came into my office. For those of you who don't know, I work in a tax office, my day job. And Rockstar guy pops in and says, "Hey, would you like a free Rockstar?" I'm like, "Sure, I'm having a day." He turns around and he says, "That's great." He throws 4 on the desk. He says, "Just remember us come tax time." I haven't seen the guy since. It was great. All right, so we're starting to get some smoke off there. You can't really see it in the camera, but again, I want smoke, not flames. So just a little bit of a smoke-ish is good. Now, I'm going to try this the hard way. Do this one-handed. Let's see how good I really am. Now, when we're cooking this, we want fat side down. Hear that noise? That sizzling noise? What you want. If it's not sizzling, pull it out of the pan, wait a little longer, stop being so damn impatient. Now we're going to throw all of our bacon in here, or as much as we can fit in the pan. Again, fat side down. This part is singularly the most important part. If you do not, what will end up happening is the meat will burn, and the fat will be chewy, gooey, and disgusting. So there you have it. And once you get that in there and you start to see the oils coming out of the fat a little bit, let it stay on high heat just for a minute or so, and then turn it down to medium. We don't want this to burn. We want it to crisp up nicely without being charred. Remember, we bought ribeye. We don't want to ruin it. So what you should be smelling right about now is a little bit of smoky flavor, some salt, and you're going to get a sweet aromatic. And that's coming out of the nutmeg and the coriander that we added. Now, that, my friends, is beautiful. So, once it's got a little bit of a golden edge on it, you want to flip this over. Like I said, we turn this down to medium. We want to make sure that we're turning this relatively often. And, of course, like any other bacon, it's going to curl on us, which is going to be challenging, especially when you're holding the camera. Now, for those of you who have people who have decided that they're going to wake up because they smell that you're cooking, you might be able to get them to hold the camera, and sometimes not. I offer. Well, friend, here. I'm for
Okay, let me. There we go.
All right, so now you'll see that I'm holding the bacon down. The reason that is because there's a little bit of a seam right there. Right there, that seam right there. That is actually going to be a little bit chewy, but we're not going to worry too much about it because once this all fries up nicely, it'll be beautiful. As you see, the fat in the pan is becoming more and more, and that's because we're cooking the fatty ends of this beef. You'll notice that there's a white edge around all of this char. That's our salt. That's going to give it that. It's going to give it that rich, salty flavor we're looking for. Pardon me a minute.
There is absolutely no cheating going on here. Please do not observe the man behind the curtain. We will stay focused on this gorgeousness right here in the pan. Look at that, bacon with no curl. It's magic, I'm telling you.
It's the most beautiful thing ever. So as you see, the fats, the hard fats, will get gooey. And this is exactly what we want, this gooey kind of mushy thing. Because when that finally breaks down, it'll actually crisp up really, really nice. Now, for those of you joining us, we're making bacon and eggs this morning, but we're not making just regular bacon, we're making steak bacon. I've trimmed down some ribeye, trimmed out the hard fats, made a salt rub for it. And I had a piece just a second ago, and it is delicious. Now, for those of you who know me, you know as well as I do that anytime I say it's delicious, people are trying to convince you of that fact. Like, those big billboards. It's delicious. No. The reason I'm telling you it's delicious is, one, because it's actually delicious. Two, you can't taste it. You're on the other side of the camera. I feel bad for you.
Don't lie, you want them to understand that they will get none of it.
Well, they know they'll get none of it. But the best part is I'm showing them how to do it so that they can do it at home. All right. Now, what we're looking for here is we're going to make sure that those fats start to crisp up a little bit. As you can see, it's starting to get a little bit more done around the edges here. The reason I keep playing with it is you don't want it to burn. This is so important, folks. We've gone through all of the trouble of making a salt rub. We've cheated. We've made a salt cure for it. There is absolutely no reason to let it burn in the pan as of right this instant. If it burns in the pan, you've just wasted your time and your money. I'm not a fan of wasting time or money because I'm Chang like that. Ask Tina. I'm probably the cheapest person she knows. Alright, so get a look at this one here. This is what we want. And we want that on both sides. So I'm just going to let that sit there for a little bit. Let that cook. Finish frying up. And you'll notice that as the temperature of the pan starts to drop a little bit, that it's not cooking quite as quickly. That's fine. Don't turn the heat back up. Again, this is not a quick process. Like I said, I've been up for almost an hour doing this already. We want to make sure that we do it right. We want to make sure that everything is cooked through and delicious. The last thing you want is to serve somebody gummy, chewy, fatty bacon. If you want that, go to Denny's. Seriously.
Okay.
And if you want stuff that's burnt, go to IHOP. Save your time. Save your time. As this gets done, we're going to be pulling it off, and we're going to be adding extra pieces to it, because I want that whole pound of bacon. And quite frankly, as it comes out of the pan, people in your household, as they do wake up, are going to come out here, what's that smell? And they're going to start grabbing it. Now, while I'm cooking and I'm on video, I'm not going to yell at them. Know that they will get an earful later. Alright, so what we're looking for is we're looking for these nice fried pieces. Now, unlike pork bacon, you're not going to get a super crisp out of it. Beef bacon tends to stay a little bit chewier, a little bit more tender. As you can see, it's still got some press to it. It's not going to break or chip or, scrap down like regular bacon does, which is fine. Because let me tell you, folks, when you put that in your mouth, you are absolutely going to die. I mean, figuratively, not really. Now, if you've done this and you've cut it by hand, you're going to get chunky pieces like this one here. Kind of looks like pot roast or beef roast. It's fine. Don't worry about it. This is your home. Anybody tells you they don't like it, this is your castle, throw them the hell out. They don't need steak and eggs anyway. Now, for those people who appreciate a good steak and eggs, let them stay. Alright, so we're going to throw more of this in here. Again, very important. Super, super important. Fat side down. Now, when I say fat side down, that's the meat side, as you can see, where the meat came from. This is all fat. This side goes down. We want to make sure that we get those hard fats to break down. And as you can see, as with like regular bacon, it curls up a little bit. Try and keep that away from the meat that's still cooking. Actually, that's about done. That is exactly what we want. That is a beautiful thing. Now, I've vowed to my wife that I was going to fix this light so it stops being that weird orange color. And since Tina's gotten me into doing some videos, thanks a lot, Tina, I appreciate it. I'm probably going to end up doing that sooner than later.
Corey will be very pleased.
All right. Now, for those of you joining us, I had said that this should start waking people up in your home. What I'm going to do is hand my lovely camera assistant some of this, but I want you to describe to everybody what it tastes like as you're chewing on it. Doesn't cut it.
My mouth is full. You can wait.
There you have it, folks. No, seriously, she'll tell you exactly what she's tasting here in a minute.
So, it's not technically a flavor, but it's important. It had this beautiful crispness along the outside edges. And then there was that salt, like a sea, you know when you have a sea salt caramel or a sea salt chocolate and you get a nice chunk of sea salt and it makes everything better? That's what that was.
So, bacon that tastes like chocolate.
Yeah.
Tender, chewy, ugly.
No, you wanted flavor, okay?
Tell people what you were experiencing. Mouthfeel is important, folks. Remember this. You don't go out to eat just because it tastes good. You go out to eat for mouthfeel. What I'm cooking here, in-home, is the same kind of thing that you would order out.
So it started with a nice crispy edge, and as you bit into it, bit through that bit of crunch, it immediately started to fall apart into this very tender, very flavorful, somehow still very juicy meat that it's kind of like what people get thick cut bacon thinking it's supposed to be, only this actually manages it.
Right, so I want to point out that mass-produced bacon is done on a conveyor belt. They sprinkle this stuff down with the salt and the honey glaze or the maple glaze or the brown sugar glaze, pepper, whatever it is. And then they run it through their smoker, and it's very rarely even touched by human hands once the meat's been cut. It does not compare to home cooking. Home cooking is one of the greatest advantages that we have in today's world. The other thing about it is, thankfully, and I do, people who know me know that I complain intensely about the Food Network ruining my career. Well, you know what? It's true. Food Network has ruined my career, but it has educated the mass populace. Everyone is now a foodie. Everyone knows what good food should taste like. And we're seeing the decline of fast food restaurants and the reemergence of really expensive fine dining. Now, that makes my life a lot harder because mid-level restaurants are going the way of the dodo. Something that's mid-ranged, family style, relatively inexpensive, but not super great food, but not terrible food. Those places are dying. And unfortunately, that makes up a good chunk of what my industry works on. So, thank you, Food Network, for introducing chefs to the rest of the world, and that home cooks can be just as good. And sarcastically, thank you. Now, of course, I've said this. Now, I'm never going to get on YouTube. I'm never going to make a million hits. And the Food Network's probably going to sue the shit out of me. But that's okay, I've said it. Now, speaking of YouTube, there are a lot of YouTube personalities out there that are really good at what they do. They're not chefs. They don't claim to be chefs, but they're really good. So there's
Babish, hats off to you, Babish. You do a great job. I've been in this industry for 25 years, and you blow me away. And then Sam, the cooking guy, you're absolutely entertaining on camera. It's a beautiful thing that you work with some of the product that you do. I wish that I had the access and the ability to get some of the tomahawk steaks that you get, and your olive oil. I applaud you on your olive oil deal. And olive oil is beautiful, by the way. For those of you who don't know, go check out Sam the Cooking Guy, and go check out Binging with Babish on YouTube. They're amazing. They really are. So for those of you who know me, yes, I have been a chef for 25 years. I recently got out of the industry. My back gave out, and so I can't do it as much as I would like to. However, ignore that. In the meantime, we have beef bacon. Now, do not tip, drain, or otherwise move that fat off of where it is. We want that. We want that oil. And I'm going to show you why. And for those of you who are health conscious, you're going to hate what I'm about to do. But you know what? It's my house. And you notice I'm using tongs. Don't use a spatula for this. The oil gets everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. It's the worst thing to clean up. Because all of that, folks, that came off of our bacon. You don't want that on your countertops. You don't want it on your floors. You don't want it on you, most especially you. Now, we're going to turn this down to low. And the reason being is we're just frying bacon in there, and that is stupid hot. Here's the part where you all are going to hate. Or love, whichever. Right into the oil. There is nothing better on this planet than campfire eggs. Everyone knows that a cast iron pan on an open fire after you've been cooking bacon and then throwing eggs into there is the most glorious thing on the planet. So we're going to do that today. Let those cook. Now, remember, we salted and flavored the living daylights out of that beef. Do not add salt to your eggs. The instant you salt these eggs, you will make them so salty they're inedible. The only thing you want to throw on these eggs is coarse grind cracked black pepper. Now, why coarse grind, Tony? Isn't my black pepper good enough? No, it is not. Coarse grind adds a more strong flavor, but at the same time, because you use less of it, that flavor is not necessarily spread out over the food, but you'll taste the eggs and the pepper in alternating fashion. Remember, taste buds are microscopic. So what's going to happen is we're going to let these cook for a little bit. Now remember, I said that it's going to be on low. We're just going to jiggle that around a little bit, make sure our eggs aren't sticking. You notice, once again, I am not sticking a spatula into this oil. That is super important, folks. Do not put a spatula into this oil. As soon as you pull that spatula out, that oil goes everywhere. The reason that we're cooking it on low is because eggs tend to splatter. So we're using the ambient heat that we had left over, and we're using the oil, which also had ambient heat, on a relatively high heat. Eggs cook at 120 degrees, which really does mean that in the summertime you can go out, throw an egg on the sidewalk, and cook it.
It's not really good eating after that. But...
Again, you don't really want to do that, but that's fine. Once again, for those of you joining us, we're making bacon, steak, and eggs. We trimmed down our ribeyes, and we sliced down the hard fats, and we made a salt cure, put that on there, and then we cooked the bacon in a pan. We're adding eggs to that pan. Do not salt the eggs. Again, super important. I cannot stress that enough. Don't make your eggs super salty. Now, what we're looking for is we're looking for this piece here that's all the way done through. That's exactly what we're looking for. Remember, I'd said do not add a spatula to this pan at all. We do not want to use a spatula. All right, folks, I'm going to do the industry cheat. Try to avoid using a spatula. Use your tongs if you can. If you can't, go ahead and use like a slotted spoon or something. Don't get the oil everywhere. Now, you'll notice that these eggs are super, super dark, and they look like they've just been burnt a little bit. They're not. What they're doing is they're soaking up those remnants from the bottom of the pan. All of that beef flavor that we had, all of the bacon flavor that we had. Once you flip the eggs after they're cooked, I'd say 3/4 of the way through, turn the heat back up to medium, let that cook for just a minute. While you're doing that, put your stuff away. Now, I had thought about making Johnny cakes this morning. Johnny cakes, for those of you who don't know, is an East Coast thing. What they are is, think of it as cornbread muffin mix and then put into a frying pan. And you make pancakes out of it. But the difference is that it has a crap ton of honey. I just don't feel like doing that kind of work this morning. I have to go to work later for my day job. Hopefully, if you love this enough, I will open up my YouTube channel and I will actually put the darn thing to use and start making YouTube videos. All right, now, what you're looking for is we're looking for eggs that we can pick up, and you see that we want over medium today. The reason being is those people that like over hard, those people that like over easy, everyone agrees on over medium. No fighting in your home. No fighting at all. These are done. So, take yourself an egg, take yourself some bacon. Yes, delicious, yummy, beautiful steak bacon. All right, for those of you who like toast, I like toast. I don't know many people that don't like toast. We're going to do something extra, extra wonderful. First, we're going to take our eggs, put those aside for a little bit. Again, using tongs, not a spatula. There's a little bit of fat left in there. That we want. We're going to turn that all the way back up to high. Let that get nice and hot. Why butter bread when you can use all of the flavor and fats in the pan? Now, I'm going to show you how to do that. Do not just soak it in there. Bad idea.
Why?
The reason being is you want a little bit on there, and then you want a little bit on the other side. You don't want to drown this stuff in this. And the reason being is if you drown it in there, then what happens is it becomes greasy, it becomes disgusting, it becomes Denny's toast. As you can see, the bread is soaking up the oil. You might get 4 slices out of this. Yeah, we're going to get 4 slices out of this. And that's beautiful. Now what we're going to do is once all the oil is soaked up, again, don't soak it up into one piece. That's silly. We're going to leave that on high, and we're going to toast our bread right in the frying pan. Some people refer to this as English breakfast. English breakfast traditionally means one pan. Everything's made in the same pan. Some people make their toast first, some people make their toast last. Depending on what I'm cooking, you'll see me do either. If I'm making a beautiful bacon by hand, you'll notice that I do this last because I want to soak up the last of that flavor. That, and let's be honest, waiting for that grease to cool so that you don't put it down your sink takes forever. And then you have to scrape it out, and it smells nasty because it's been sitting there all day. No. Use it. Remember, I said in the beginning of this video I was not kidding about. You pay for 100% of this. You should be able to utilize 100% of this. Everything should be used. If you don't use everything, that's fine. I'm cheap. Ask Tina. I hate wasting money. I hate wasting time. And I've been in the industry for 25 years. I've learned that some of the stuff that most people throw away in the home turns into some of the best food ever. For example, all of this here. This is about a pound of meat and ribeye. There's no reason to have thrown that away. People would consider that scrap. Drives me crazy. But what we're looking for is we're looking for a nice golden brown on our toast. It's not coming out of a toaster. It's not going to be firm. It's not going to be hard. Don't get it that way. There's no reason to burn and dry out your bread. Good toast should be light and fluffy and still feel like bread. Good toast will have a nice caramel on the other side of it. If you want extra butter later, you can always add extra butter. You can always add jelly, whatever. The best part about cooking in a frying pan is that you do not denature the bread so that it tastes like day-old stale biscuits. Regular toast bothers me. There's no reason for it. 90% of restaurants have this giant toaster that they throw bread into. Why? They have a flat top. Cook the toast on the flat top. Bread should, again, stay soft and chewy, like regular bread. That's why we buy bread. We don't buy bread for it to be old. Now, if you start to smell that it is burning, turn the heat off. Like I said, this pan is going to be ripping hot. We just want to toast it. We don't want to burn it. Burn is bad. And that is the sound of my video being done because my phone's about to die. Well, I'm going to go have some breakfast. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one. This is Chef Tony signing off.